emergency use authorization for Pfizer, Moderna as of last week, Johnson & Johnson. How does the vaccines get to New York City? We all know that the state government is the ones that open up the eligibility. Federal government manages distribution of vaccines from manufacturers to state and locality. Supply is still extremely limited, so we need additional vaccines from the federal government in order to open additional sites, offer more appointments, and vaccinate more New Yorkers. Phase distribution and eligibility. Phase distribution has taken place, and we still don't expect vaccines to be widely available until at least mid-2021, so that's through June. We're working to enhance access. As you see here, there is a phone number, and we do know that the websites are still hard to manage. So we're working pretty diligently to make sure that we get this. Forgive me all, working from home is still very hard when you're sharing a space with family. So forgive the interruption. What can we do in the meantime? Here's the vaccine finder, the phone number for our seniors. We're also working with community-based organizations to set up these appointments. We understand that there are technological challenges for folks. Some folks do not have computers, they do not have Wi-Fi, or they're unable to connect, and they just mainly don't have the time that it takes to navigate these systems. The most important information on here that you can click on is the main vaccine information, and we want folks to really speak to their providers and their primary care physicians to ensure that they can actually take the vaccine. Although they may be eligible, there may be some concerns their primary care physician may have. These are the important links that you should know, including the COVID zone lookup, testing guidelines, and the take care services that the City of New York does offer. I know I'm gonna pause here and stop sharing my screen. In the interim, I know that my partner at the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene will work to get you the numbers broken down by zip code as far as the COVID updates are concerned. I do have to hop off, but I'm available for the next 10 minutes to answer any questions that folks may have. And I will drop a link in the chat in regards to any community-based organizations that you may know that are interested in signing up for a vaccine site. So there's a specific link, and there's a format that they have to, there's a form that they have to fill out if they are interested, but there are specific requirements in order to be a vaccination site. Again, this does not guarantee, but it's a way for us to track folks that are interested in being a part of vaccination distribution.
And on that note, I would just like to say, Lorraine, do you have approval to share with us the new site that's opening up in East Harlem yet, or is it still?
So yeah, so we have Stanley Isaac's houses, and that's going to be, thank you, Nye, that's going to be specific to the folks that live in that Nycha facility. We are prioritizing the seniors, and then we're working with community-based organization in Stanley Isaac houses and Nycha to fill those appointments. We started canvassing yesterday, door to door, to sign the seniors up first for appointments. We're also, I do understand that a few weeks ago we had some issues with other folks coming from outside of Manhattan to get some of these vaccines. We're now checking IDs. We're making sure that the folks that are getting vaccinations, specifically at our Nycha facilities, are first and foremost the folks that live in those Nycha facilities, and then it's extended to folks that live and work in those facilities, and then for folks in other Nycha facilities. If we're not able to, say folks are not interested in the vaccine there, we do have some extra appointments. We offer them to other Nycha facilities in the area, but you do have to be a Nycha resident and you have to be eligible.
Is Padmore with us? Okay, before Padmore gets started then, I just want to ask by raise of hands if there are any other questions, first to the committee members and then to the general public. So are there any questions from the members of the committee? For Lorraine from New York City Test and Trace, she's the Manhattan Borough Director. Robin, are you trying to ask a question? No? Okay.
I am.
Isabel, hello, Isabel.
First of all, I want to say, Lorene and that whole team, you rock. You're participating in history in such a beautiful way, saving people. And I must say that you have been out there in the worst of weathers, making sure that testing is happening. And now to see you make these announcements is beautiful. And also, Robin, thank you so much. Just to say that for the homebound, I have Arnie Segarra Akasabe. He has been for weeks asking. And so for us all to make sure that the seniors Akasabe are put up there and anybody's list there, CB11 and anybody else, but Arnie is always asking. So they're really happy to know that these vaccinations for homebound seniors are happening. And so to let everybody know that if you're too busy, and sometimes for the seniors, like Lorene said, they don't have the technology. Our team at the Northern Manhattan office, we have a couple of people are dedicated to just connecting people to these appointments. And so I am gonna drop Junior's contact, send him an email with the name of the person and he calls them the same day. And thank you again, Lorene, you rock, and your team.
Thank you. You're on mute, Lorraine.
I'm going to drop another link, and it's something for our homebound seniors, and it's not specifically for them, but if you're a community-based organization or a community board leader and you do know of seniors that are homebound, there's another link to sign up folks so that we can keep a track, so that when we are ready to deploy the vaccinations to homebound seniors, we don't have to scrounge for lists. We can start building that list right now. And I'll also send that to Marlene and Nye after this so that we can share that with everyone as some of the take back notes from today's meeting.
Great, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so I want to make sure we keep us on schedule. Lorraine, thank you so much. Of course, you have a standing invitation every month to come and bring us an update, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Oh, one last thing I wanted to mention, it may be a little bit outside of your district, but we are doing testing this week at Lehman Houses. I will be there tomorrow from at 9:30 in the morning, handing out PPE and hand sanitizers and hopefully some face shields for our seniors. So if you need some, please come on and drop on by. Last thing, we're waiting for a flyer, but we'll be doing testing at Marcus Garvey Park. Specifically, of course, it's open to the community, but this is with the TLC. So we're working to make that happen, and that'll happen from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. March 17th.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't see Padmore here. Do you, Angel?
I do not see Padmore. I did see a hand for a question, I think. I'm not sure if it's for Lorraine. Noella Licea from Med Hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't a question. Did I miss the open session? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Angel, are we allowed, since we don't have Padmore here, for the informational update session to allow Noel to speak?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so with Padmore not being here, I'm going to allow the time to be used by Noel. Good evening, Noel. Thank you for being here with us. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, Noel Alisea from Metropolitan Hospital. Happy to see the few of you that I can see on screen. I don't have a lot to say, just, we continue to provide vaccine and testing at the hospital. Vaccine is by appointment. I know those appointments are hard to get, but we try to get as many people in as possible. Testing is continues to be walk-in. That's 7 days a week at our testing location. Just a reminder, as always, for people who have put off screenings and medical appointments to please come on in. We're making every effort to see people in person, and if not, virtually, if that's their preference. We do have a new CEO coming in starting in April. Her name is Christina Cabrera. She has been up until, for the past few years, the executive director of North Central Bronx Hospital in our system. She's going to be coming in as a CEO. Chris Roker, who has been CEO for the past year, is going to be going to Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. Hopefully I'll have Christina available to come to one of the community board meetings, maybe a full board meeting in April. I'll get back to you about that. Not much else to report, but I'm here for a bit in this meeting. If anybody has questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Does anyone have any questions from the committee for Noel? Are there any questions from the general public for Noel?
Jaime Gutierrez has his hand up.
Sure, Jaime.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, no, I'm just, I work with Padmore. So I'm not sure what the Padmore usually does and to give updates. I'm usually the one that, I used to attend the community board meetings, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. Our update would be similar to Noel's. We are vaccination site here in East Harlem. We have we give around 600 vaccines a day, plus sometimes plus or minus 50. We're also launching a community vaccination project. So where it started with the Harlem Health Advocacy Partners. So they are an organization that does chronic disease self-management here in East Harlem in Nycha housing. And so we started the project with Nycha, with HAF, and grew it to the Action Center partners, and we're starting to grow it into the East Harlem community larger. The idea being that we vaccinate that we vaccinate more folks from 10029 and 10035. And yeah, so more to come on that. It's something that we built out. We've been building out for the past 3-4 weeks, but more will be coming from it. And I'm sure you all will be interested in seeing some of the numbers soon.
Thank you so much. And for anyone with Health and Hospitals or the Center for Health Equity or Test and Trace or Metropolitan, if you are hearing about any actual sites, there was a lot of conversation before about La Maqueta being opened up as a vaccine center. If you could please make sure that that information comes to CB11 so that we can distribute it to the community, I would appreciate it. Are there any other questions for the Center for Health Equity and the Harlem Neighborhood Health Action Center before we move on? First, asking the committee members. Just going to remind our speakers, I see Noel has done it, to please drop your contact information, usually your name, title, email, phone number, and any website links into the chat so that our community members can receive it. Please click to make sure that it's available to the panelists and all attendees. I don't see any hands raised. Do you, Angel?
I don't see any hands, no.
Great. I'm going to move on then to our next speaker from the Northside Center. It looks like we have Jasmine Butler. Jasmine, are you here? Oh, excuse me. Looks like there's a change. Christina Coleman and Alexis Thompson. Just so that you know, there's only a 5-minute per organization. So I see that there are 2 people. I don't know if you want to split the time or if there will be 1 person presenting. So Christina and Alexis, how would you like to use this time?
Yes, it is going to be me.
Okay, thank you.
Christina is my supervisor. I am a crisis counselor. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. I hope everyone had a productive and great day. I am a crisis counselor for New York Project Hope, which is a government-funded program that has been implemented to really help New York residents, both city and statewide, who have been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic over the past year. So basically, our job is to provide crisis counseling services to really help everyone navigate through all of the challenges that have been caused by COVID-19. And Northside Center is the providing agency who has received the funding for Project Hope. So that is an agency located in Harlem, in East Harlem, New York. And we have an emotional support helpline, which is 646 329 7176. And that again is 646 329 7176. And our hours are from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Excuse me, 7 p.m., 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. And we are all here and available.
And then just push the back out.
I'm
Just
sorry.
go in with all of it.
Angel, I'm just going to ask if you could go on mute. Thanks.
Someone have a
Sorry,
question?
sorry.
No, it's okay. That wasn't a question, Alexis. It's okay. You can
Okay,
keep going.
perfect. Yes, so we are here to provide counseling services and really just help and serve as a support system for people who may be struggling, whether it's with mental health, whether it's with food security, whether it's with depression and anxiety, or just overall stress factors from the pandemic. We are here to assist with all of that and refer you to the available resources. So that is, I believe, a great thing that everyone here, including myself, could use. The helpline is definitely something that is really beneficial for anyone that is struggling or anyone going through substantial hardship during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Does anyone from the committee have a question for Alexis? If you could please raise your hand. Alexis is dropping the information into the chat. Okay, not seeing any. Does any of the community members have a question for Alexis? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Angel if he can advance the slides to the next presentation. We are going to move now to our presentations and discussions for the evening. This is a little bit of a lengthier time. These are ways for us to learn more about the services that are being provided in the community and how we can access them. Our first presenter today is from DFDA, which is the acronym for the New York City Department of the Aging. And I believe we have Janine Ventura. Janine, are you with us?
Yes, good evening.
Welcome,
Chair
Janine.
Whitaker.
Do you need to share your screen or do anything for your presentation?
Let me share. Oh, it says I cannot start screen share while other participant is sharing. I did send slides to Marlene, but let me see if I can try again. Oh, yes, I can. Hold
Yeah,
on.
you can do it now.
Angel just gave you permission. Thank you.
Okay, can you see my presentation?
I can, but it looks like
Let me make it bigger
yeah, a
and
little
start.
cut off. There we go. Now we can see
Okay.
it full screen. Yep, perfect.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Janine Ventura. I'm the Senior Director for the Bureau of Direct Services at DFDA, and we've rebranded to NYC Aging. And I'm happy to present on services that we have provided during the pandemic. And I saw on the agenda that my previous role, I used to be the Director of Government Affairs, but glad to tap into my old role to present before all of you today. So according to the NYC Internet Plan, so only 40% of New Yorkers older than 65 and living on their own have internet connection at home. And it's a situation that has intensified the negative health risks of COVID and social isolation. And we've found that obviously technology, and particularly in this period, has become a lifeline for all older adults. And while the digital divide has always been this waning gap, and especially between older adults and the rest of the population, it has become obviously increasingly critical during this period. So in order to continue to get access to information, emergency notifications, access to benefits and renewals of such programs, delivery of food, telemedicine, and other needs. And so, also it is a way for older New Yorkers to stay connected to their family, friends, and loved ones, especially in the face of stay-at-home orders. So social isolation has always been a top issue at the agency. And, older adult social isolation is harmful and can result in various health issues, including depression and cognitive decline and even heart disease. And so, of course, because of the nature of COVID and the burden of the impact of COVID on older adults, it has led to exacerbated social isolation among the population, and technology is that critical bridge. And so during the pandemic, NYC Aging and our provider network have done case management calls and wellness check-in calls. And so these calls are not only to ensure the well-being of older New Yorkers through what we would do programmatically through case management, but also, there has been this additional need that had to be met in terms of making critical referrals for food provision, our friendly visiting program, which matches one-to-one with older adults who are enrolled in our case management programs. And of course, pre-pandemic, these visits would be in person, and then post-pandemic, these have been check-in calls that have been telephonic. And then also our elder abuse programs, our mental health services, and other essential services. And approximately since last March, 2.9 million calls have been placed and reaching more than 191,000 older New Yorkers. And so we also participated in NYC Connected Communities, and we previously received funding from Do It, and recently last year received funding through the Mayor's Office of the Chief Technology Officer, or MOCTO, for this program because this is such an important need to meet this digital divide. And so the goal of this program was to promote digital literacy and provide older adults with internet access. And so previous initiatives to try and bridge the digital divide with older adults has largely been focused on tech access in the way of devices and broadband, but not necessarily focus on programming or tech support, and tech support that is older adult centric. So this program of NYC Connected Communities ensured that there would be ongoing tech support for older adults who need to build confidence and also comfort with using technology. And so it was a true digital inclusion effort, ensuring that it was a safe space, non-judgmental space for older adults to become more comfortable with technology. And so NYC Aging contracted with Older Adult Technology Services, or OATS, to provide ongoing technology support and education. And OATS offers technology training virtually in numerous languages. In addition to English, they also offer trainings in Spanish, Bengali, Russian, Mandarin, and Cantonese. They have facilitated approximately 600 one-hour virtual training sessions that have included more than 60,000 participants. And OATS also operates the Senior Planet website that shares information, resources, articles, and other events that support aging and also technology. And so we have also facilitated tablet distribution to older adults, including those living in Nycha developments, as well as kinship caregivers and foster grandparent volunteers. And so led by MOCTO, and of course, together with Nycha, the city provided 10,000 free Wi-Fi equipped tablets to older adult Nycha residents last year and last summer. And then OATS, as I mentioned, provided the outreach, support, and training focused on the use of the tablet devices and worked with all of the older adults that received these tablets. And so part of the services that OATS provided included a brand new multilingual call center with professional trainers, again, that were focused on assisting older adults with technology to not only confirm that they received the devices, but help familiarize themselves with the tablet from turning it on and off, creating an email address, accessing websites, and of course, critical logging into Zoom to be able to benefit from virtual programs and telemedicine, et cetera. And so OATS offered like a multimodal and also high touch support. They not only provided virtual trainings, but to even get to the point of ensuring participation in these virtual trainings, they did many calls, they did many mailings, lots of training materials were physically mailed to all of the older adults in order to encourage them to participate in the virtual trainings. And so since then, OATS has conducted more than 47,000 calls with device recipients. And then these calls have ranged from 30 to 90 minutes long to ensure that older adults have their needs met in terms of ensuring that they are able to fully use their device and maximize its functionality. And so some of the trainings that OATS launched included Android Essentials, ensuring that there was a step-by-step walkthrough together with a manual that was mailed to them to show them how they can use a tablet. And then shorter training sessions were also developed. And OATS has provided 630 hours of virtual training to tablet recipients. So two particular programs that have also leveraged tablet distribution are Grandparent Resource Center, which serves grandparent kinship caregivers citywide, including in 15 Mayor's Action Plan Nycha developments. More than 370 kinship caregivers received Wi-Fi equipped tablets and received training and technology support. And so, like I said, a lot of, or all of DIFTA's programming has shifted to 100% virtual. So this enabled these grandparent kinship caregivers to continue to participate in virtual support groups, take part in training and events, including an empowerment series that we are doing in collaboration with Fordham University, and of course, access benefits. Our foster grandparent program, which is funded through AmeriCorps Seniors, is a program in which foster grandparent volunteers work with youth. And pre-pandemic, all of the volunteer assignments were in person, whether it was at courts or hospitals or Head Starts or early childhood programs. So of course, post-pandemic, all of these assignments have had to be virtual. And so the tablet distribution allowed more than 270 of our foster grandparent volunteers to participate in virtual programming and also receive training aligned with their volunteer assignments. And so network-wide, since last March, our provider network has had to pivot 100% virtually or remotely to provide telephone-based or virtual services that were formerly in person. And so now 3 times the amount of virtual programs are being offered by our provider network, and older adult centers, some of whom offered virtual programming, now pivoted quickly to increase those offerings to ensure that older adults remain socially connected and active. So more than 240 older adult centers offer free programs online via Zoom. And these are fitness classes, arts and crafts, music, socialization events. And about 3,000 virtual programming events were offered through last October with more than 78,000 attendees. And these programs are offered in many different languages. And now as a result, older adults have a wider range of options. So obviously physically, seniors would attend the older adult center that is close to their house, but with virtual offerings, they're able to attend programs offered throughout the network. Other programs that have transitioned to virtual or telephone-based services are the following. So our friendly visiting program that used to be in person is now obviously telephonic. Also our geriatric mental health program, caregiver, case management, our HiCap program to assist with Medicare, Grandparent Resource Center, foster grandparent program, our senior employment services, and elder justice, all are remote or virtual. Friendly Voices is a new program that we recently launched last year. And based on the friendly visiting model, it is not only limited to those older adults who are enrolled in our case management programs, and it's designed to be virtual even post-pandemic and available to all older adults who are socially isolated. And there's an option for the one-to-one match or the ability to join small virtual groups.
Janine, can I just check in? Oh, there you go. I was going to check in because it was 10 minutes.
I knew I was checking my time too. So for more information, you can reach out to Aging Connect, and I can also drop in the chat the name and the contact for our Manhattan Borough Coordinator who liaises with CB11.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm actually going to start off the questions that I was curious to know. So I guess I'm going to take a little chairman's preference here. For the tablets that you share with the seniors, who pays for the Wi-Fi? Are you guys also paying for the Wi-Fi service in their home that they can stay connected to all of these services, or are they responsible for that?
So all of the tablets that we distributed through the NYC Connected Communities and moving forward have been T-Mobile tablets. So they're T-Mobile tablets that are paid through the city and are not paid. They're free of charge to all of the older adults that have received them.
And then you guys train them on how to use the tablet, right? So you deliver it to them and you walk them through it. Okay.
Exactly. And then, the training is specific to the tablet. So So the way OATS works, it's as long as they all have the same tablet, it makes it easy for them to develop certain trainings that are targeted to help them use this specific device. So that all is included in the distribution.
Okay. And one other question, because I have to ask about our district needs and programs.
Sure.
So we have a very specific program that is near and dear to our heart that every year we make a request for. And Robin, I think I'm going to get it. It's the ISIP, the ISIP program that we talk about every year during our district needs assessment. And I was just wondering, and I don't know, Janine, if you can speak to this, but I know you were in government affairs before, what can we do as a community board to really try to work closely with DFTA to try to make sure that that program is fully funded, that it can be expanded, especially now post-pandemic. There are conversations at the state level about budget. There's conversations at the city level about budget. We just want to be a partner with DFTA to figure out how we can expand the hours and the resources for that program. And I'd be open to any ideas I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you have some now, or if you want to come back to us with your colleagues, with some ideas, we would love to partner with you.
So we can totally follow up, but I'll just say that, so ISIP, as you know, is state funded, but of course there have been some discretionary infusions for home care that have happened through the years. And that has been able to increase and address whatever wait list that exists for home care. And so, and I know that's part of the driving force as to why folks would like to increase ISIP funding to be able to address whatever waitlist exists. I'm actually not sure where we're at in the impact of COVID. I'm not the in-home services expert, but I can totally bring that back. But my recommendation would be, and in the past when we've gotten these requests, I think we've gotten them through Caring Across Generations and various organizations that have totally lobbied for increased ISIP funding, but it really requires an infusion for us to be able to get through the wait list and to address home care needs. And I would recommend that in the near term.
Well, if there's anything we can do to partner with you guys as the state is starting to do their budget for April 1st. So if you know of any service providers, or if anyone in your department is working on projects to lobby them for that increased funding or to make that a priority, please let us know so that, again, we can collaborate with you on that and make sure that that gets expanded. I'm going to open up the floor to the hands of the committee members that are raised. Again, I just want to make sure we stay on time. So if you can try to keep your questions sharp, I appreciate it. Robin, you had your hand up. I didn't know if you took it back down. Okay, great. I'm going to go to Eva Chan.
Yeah, quick question. If there is extra funding, where would you want to allocate to? It seems like you're doing really good work. I was just curious if there are any noticeable gap that you still like to fill.
I wish there was a noticeable gap. I think in the time of COVID, definitely, I think all of our agencies and the city in general is doing, maximizing our resources as much as possible. And given that, as I mentioned, even with the wellness checks, et cetera, there's COVID, and of course there's the underlying programmatic work that we've done even in regular time and pre-pandemic. So as I mentioned, given that technology really is it is the equalizer, right? It is really now the lifeline to all types of access. So I think continuing to bolster technology access for older adults, I would think is where, additional funding would be great, should it exist. We are working with MOCTO on other ideas, whether it's a programmatic library or other ways that older adults can continue to stay engaged for however long we're in this period as we're going through vaccinations.
You need to make them some new Spotify lists that they can download.
Yes.
I'm going to call on Osendi Garcia.
Thank you again for your presentation.
Sure.
I was looking over the presentation and I was wondering if you had identified areas in our district that have yet to receive access to the services that you described. And if you, in order to actually identify these areas, if you're collaborating with any local organizations.
So I think, so thankfully, I mean, CD11 has a lot of services in terms of DIFTA. So you have Carter Burden, who's located right in the district, and they are an elder abuse services provider in addition to a well-known senior center provider. And then Lenox Hill is the case management provider, which is also a great provider too. So I don't think there's a dearth of services, at least from NYC Aging in CD11, but more would always be better, right? And I think that goes citywide, not just for CD11, but all of the services that I just mentioned that have pivoted virtually. And, Carter Burden is actually one of one of the providers citywide that we also look to for what are these best practices as we navigate COVID, right? And even in terms of the technology realm, Carter Burden has been there in terms of also sharing what their learning and their best practices have been to be able for the rest of our network to also learn. So, so you do have the benefit of having those community resources right in the district.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Yes, you're on mute, I think.
I'm going to recognize Robin. Robin, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you so much. Hi, Janine. I'm with Searching Care, who is one of the 3 partners in the East Side Consortium with Lenox Hill as a lead agency and Carter Burden and Searching Care. So we are also part of that frontier of, as you call, pivoting, providing virtual community, creating virtual communities to sustain our more isolated, very anxious clients. I loved your presentation. I congratulate you on it. I do have a quick question. How do we know which out of the many East Harlem Nycha developments have already been helped with this program? And if there are any that are not yet helped, how do we find that out?
I will, I would have to follow up. I can confirm with Nycha, and also with our, who was part of distribution within DIFTA, and I can let you know. I will, full disclosure, I just transitioned to this position not too long ago.
Congratulations on your new
Thank you.
responsibilities. It's not, just so you know, it's not a priority, but we ourselves have a Kindling Communities project.
Yes.
So we would not want to duplicate Oates' efforts if possible.
So
Thank
I
you
will
so
totally
much.
confirm which developments received the
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Sure, no problem.
Are there any questions from the community? If you could please raise your hand so that I can call on you. I see Alicia Berry. Alicia, you can please unmute.
Yes, I was just wondering how we can reach those clients who are not part of Nycha. I have clients that are part of Nycha who were able to get some of the tablets, but then there are clients who are not part of Nycha who are unable to get tablets.
So the initiative, the NYC Connected Communities Initiative, was specifically with Nycha and working with targeting older adults who are living in Nycha developments. One thing that we have had discussions with, so we are trying to see what other funding sources are possible. And this wouldn't necessarily be through NYC Aging. We do have a nonprofit arm and this is a continual question that we've gotten. So when we've had virtual learning communities that covers the entire city, a lot of, and also, Age Friendly NYC, which for a long time was led by the New York Academy of Medicine, right in the community, through Age Friendly. And I know, and I've seen some members here are also part of the Age Friendly Commission. We have had those discussions about, well, what's the way to expand that tablet distribution beyond Nycha developments? And I think to Eva's question earlier about, well, what would we do with additional funding? Should it exist, or should we be able to identify it? Would be, like I mentioned, increasing that technological access. So again, not only doing a tablet distribution to older adults in NYCHA developments, but also beyond that, whether it's in 202 or whether it's older adults in other communities that are in need and have shown that they lack broadband access, lack tech access. Of course, any older adult who needs this connection, needs it just as much as anyone who's in NYCHA. So this is something that we've been thinking of in terms of trying to identify funding sources for this initiative, but we have not been able to identify any as of yet, but that would be one of those technological priorities.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you both. So I'm going to close out because I don't see any other hands raised, and I just want to give a warning to everyone. It is 6:52. We have another presentation from Help USA. Want to just let Help USA know you have 10 minutes if possible. I always try to ask if you can kind of do 8 minutes so that we could leave, some time for questions and answers. Just noting to everybody, we will be going past 7 o'clock because after that we have important old business. So if there's no other questions, thank you, Janine, for joining us. We appreciate it. Please be sure to follow up with any of those items by emailing our office. And I'm going to go ahead to our next speaker, Karen Ford and Tom Hamelin, or Tom Hameline, I'm not quite sure. I apologize if I'm butchering anyone's name, and then Stephen Mott. This is our presentation from Help USA, just to give everyone some context. If this is your first Health and Human Services Committee meeting of CB11, we are in the process of making sure we invite all of our city agencies and all service providers to come and inform our decisions and our protocols and information and how we can better partner to better serve the community. And this is one of the requests that came from the community. And so again, there's a 10-minute total allotment. I see 3 names. That always makes me nervous. So if I can ask Karen, if you can please let me know how you will be dividing your time, or if there will just be one speaker, and just know that I anticipate there will be Q&A for this presentation.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon. There's 2 speakers here. It's myself and Steve Mott. Steve Mott is going to open up and do a history of the organization, and I'll talk about some of the programmatic aspects that Help USA provides.
Great.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please do. I'm going to ask Stephen, some of us, do know the history, some of us don't, but if you can kind of give us the highlights so that we could get to the programmatic part of it, I would greatly appreciate it.
Happy to do that. I'll try to be as brief as I can.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think it's useful to go through a little bit about what we do. So I'll skip the history and I'll get directly to what it is that we do. So Help USA is a 34-year-old human service nonprofit. Our main focus is housing. So we look specifically at housing and housing stability. And our goal in sort of broad strokes is to ensure that all individuals have a safe, secure place to go home. So we do that in 3 broad buckets. And we try to address 3 moments of housing instability. So there's a moment of housing destabilization, an acute housing crisis, and then a housing resolution. And the way that we affect each of those moments, we don't think of them as a continuum. We think of them as individual moments in people's housing. Primarily, we try to, during moments of destabilization, when people are at risk of losing their housing, we have a series of prevention strategies that we employ, including home base, SSVF, which is a homelessness prevention program for veterans, and a non-residential domestic violence treatment program that we call ROADS. So the goal of all of those programs writ large is to make sure that people never become homeless in the first place. We know that people do become homeless. And when that happens, in order to treat the trauma of that and make sure that people have a place to stay at any given night, we run shelters. So the shelters that we run move across the spectrum. We run shelters for single adult men, single adult women, families, people experiencing domestic violence. Karen, could you go back one? As well as special populations, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And then the final thing we do is we build and manage supportive and affordable housing. And we see this as sort of the be-all end-all answer to homelessness, right? Shelter is a Band-Aid at a moment of crisis that people need, but permanent housing that supports people and that they can afford is the real solution. So just to tell you a little bit about how big we are, we can do the next slide, Karen. Thank you. We operate in 10 cities. We have roughly 60 programs, 1,500 people work for us. And we serve, sort of high touch serve about 25,000 clients each year. And if you spread that down to what we do residentially and what we do in the community, we run roughly 4,500 units of housing. That's 3,000 shelter and about 1,400 permanent affordable housing. And in our community-based programs, we serve about 6,700 families. We prevent homelessness. 5,400 we serve in our Family Safety Center, which is a combination of Office of Victim Services advocacy, as well as domestic violence treatment and counseling. And we also run daycare programs that serve 300 children each year in daycare. So that's what we do. Just to give you a sense of where we are within the city, the next slide shows a bunch of little dots on a map. On the left there is everywhere we are in New York City. You can see that we operate in Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. We don't operate in Staten Island. And in this particular community district, we operate 4 sites on Wards and Randall's Island. And so that's just a sense of who we are, the breadth of what we do, where we're located in the city. Karen's going to talk a little bit about specifics about what we do in the community district. And then I'd like to leave a bunch of time for questions, because I think it's really important to spend some time listening to the community.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Ford. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Help USA, and I have the pleasure of overseeing our transitional housing portfolio, our supportive housing portfolio, and the homeless prevention as well that Steve Mott discussed. But particularly what we do in your district is we operate 4 temporary housing shelters located on Wards Island for men. Each facility has a different focus. Our Kena facility has 300 men with a general population focus, and that means, they don't have particular needs like mental health, housing and homelessness is their primary issue. We operate a supportive employment center for 200 men with a focus on employment services. Clark Thomas has 233 men with behavioral health needs, and our Meyer facility as well with 200 men with behavioral health needs. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, helped provide temporary housing and social services to 2,900 individuals that were experiencing homelessness throughout our 4 Wards Island facilities. In those facilities, we provide meals, safety for individuals experiencing homelessness, on-site case management, housing, public assistance, employment support, and healthcare services. We also have partnerships with medical providers with Care for the Homeless, NYU Medical Center, and Health and Hospitals, Elmhurst, that are on site in our facilities. For the past 6 years, our Help Works program, it's our supported employment program, has been providing employment services, job readiness to men in the Wards Island vicinity. That's any individual that's in the shelter system on Wards Island that wants to get employed and that is capable and go through the screening process. We provide employment services. Over the last 3 years, we have placed 741 participants into full-time employment, and 105 of those participants were hired with Help USA. That is part of the work that we do. In the job training portion, they go through a classroom. We have classrooms on site, and we have job developers. We have trainers, job trainers, and vocational specialists. The 3 areas of concentration are security guard training. We have a culinary arts and farming program, and the maintenance program. We also have employment assistance, and each individual gets the opportunity to work with an employment specialist.
Karen, I'm just going to interrupt for one moment because it's been about 10 minutes. I'm just questioning how many more slides do you have for this section?
Oh, okay. I have a few, but I'm going to run through them fast.
Okay, if you could just highlight the last few, I appreciate it.
Great, thank you for that. Project Eats is a partnership that we have at our Help Sec, and they partner with Help USA in the culinary arts program, where they provide, we have a farm. We have, actually, we're working with them. I just want to show the wonderful pictures. And there's food that, you know, that comes through. We grow on site. We use some of it to feed our clients in the facilities, and then the rest gets distributed throughout the communities through the organization. We also have a street soccer program on site as well, where we work with our individuals that are in the facilities to learn what we call soft skills and life skills. Again, in some of those areas would be, you know, basic things like, you know, being dependable, working in a team, you know, showing up on time, team building, anger management. We enroll approximately 300 residents per year into the street soccer program. And this year during the COVID, we kind of transitioned a little bit into doing some socially distanced appropriate activities like yoga that, you know, was appropriate. Just also want to highlight the work that we've done in terms of COVID-19. We have, in our responsiveness, we've had what we call a density reduction. We reduced 50% of our population in the congregate care. We moved them into two shelters in the, not in your district, in the lower Manhattan area. With the Department of Homeless Services, we have routine testing. Most recently, we set up a vaccine pod that was rather successful. We vaccinated, I think, 270 individuals, both staff and clients. We ensured that everyone, you know, we followed the PPE, and, you know, we delivered masks and sanitizers, just ensuring the health and safety of everyone. So I'm going to stop sharing now to allow for any questions. I apologize if I kind of went through that.
It's okay. It's, you know, it's a very important topic, and I think it's important for us to be informed. I know there's going to be questions, so I'm going to ask the first question in the interim. I'd like to invite community members and the committee members and community members to raise your hand now, so that when I'm done with my question, we can quickly continue through the program. So to Karen and to Stephen, I'm going to take, you know, chair of the committee privilege and ask the first question. I have lived here for 46 years, and I live near 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. And I know often there is a conversation in the community about the transportation options and the commuting that comes, and the footprint of the amount of traffic that comes to that corner of 125th from the Wards Island, Randall's Island facilities. And so I was just hoping you could speak to, I know in the past, it used to be because the facilities were only open certain times. There were other shelters there run by city and other agencies that were only open certain times that are now 24 hours. So it's kind of less than that. But if you could just talk a little bit about that concern, and, you know, some of your thoughts around how we can all be better partners with, you know, the residents or those in temporary housing, or in partnership with services with you, because it is a grave concern, and I think we all need to do better.
We absolutely recognize that. I believe one of the areas for us is, that's why we really tried to have enriching programming on site. The Health Works program was lifted up in direct response to try to ensure that the men on Wards Island have the opportunity to have access to employment services, and so that they can, you know, really work towards self-sufficiency. A lot of the activities are street soccer, as well as, you know, the culinary arts program. All of the case management services for us are ways to engage the men that we have in our facility, to kind of limit and lessen the, you know, the need to, you know, go to 125th Street.
Yeah, I would add that in addition to that, we've been working closely with Randall's Island Park Alliance and other people on the island to try to really push the MTA to do a little bit of work on those bus routes and figure out if there are ways that they can add more buses, make sure the buses don't just drop off at a single point in East Harlem. Some of the things that would honestly really great for the people we serve as well, trying to get to work and things like that. And so it's a conversation we're always willing to have. And I think the more community support we had for a thing like that, the more luck we would have going to the MTA in the city.
Yeah, Stephen, I'm definitely happy to work with you. And I think also our public safety committee and others. I know that a lot of concerns for the tenants and the children and families in the community around that. So whatever we can do to try to address that problem together would also be important. I also just think that there may also be a conversation about security and whether or not we need to have some extension of security on the 125th Street side by the train stations, is maybe in partnership with, Help USA or any of the other Randall's Park Alliance or service providers. Because whether it's people coming to club and hang out or singing Luminosity or whatever, there is a surge from that Lexington going out, or, kids going to games now that recreation has started. And so we might need to consider what we can do around maybe some sort of security protocols and others, just to move the traffic and move the people and decrease some of the loitering and other issues that have come. So I just want to raise that and elevate that before I call on our community members. Oh, Cindy, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand up and it's gone.
Yes, I did have a question. You actually brought it up, which I am so very much grateful, because you're able to put it more concisely than I ever can. But my concern is along the M35 bus route, as you mentioned earlier. Thank you so much for your presentation. Before I continue, Ms. Ford, Mr. Mott. I have actually interacted with people who have used your services during my homeless outreach work, and they have shared a lot of the impact that your services have had in their lives. Thankfully, this individual is actually fully housed now and is gainfully employed. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. Still, we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we actually reach the individuals who come out of the services that you provide and the housing opportunities that you provide. So, as Nycha mentioned earlier, to actually collaborate to provide more security, to provide a little bit more work with Help USA, the Parks Department. But I know for a fact that you guys have trained individuals who are already interacting with the public that is, forming clusters along 125th Street. So would you consider actually doing outreach work directly along the 125th Street line to extend the services that you're providing, to make sure that the people that are having a bit more of a difficult time don't fall through the cracks? That was my question. Would you consider doing canvassing and outreach along 125th Street?
Yeah, Karen, I'm going to let you answer this one.
Yeah, so our contract with the Department of Homeless Services covers the internal, in the buildings, the bricks and mortar aspects of the work that we do. I'd be willing to, I guess, bring it up in a conversation with the DHS leadership. But, again, we're funded to provide the work inside of the shelter to make sure that the safety occurs when the residents get to our building.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
All right, we've partnered with street outreach teams in the past on 125th to try to figure out if there are ways that we could all work together. The challenge is that the funding streams are just different and they keep us apart from one another. But I think there's a real opportunity here to rekindle just weekly meetings with all of the providers that provide in the area, as well as the street outreach teams. One of the things that we've had a lot of luck with on the island specifically is just meeting weekly with everybody who runs services and programs on the island. And that's gotten us all pulling in the same direction. And so if this community board can help us be the convener there, we'd love to just sit down and talk with everyone that provides services in the area and figure out how we can work better together. Because as Karen said, they really limit what our people are allowed to do. They stop us at the front door. But we're not the only people that operate in the neighborhood. And so if we could work on some handoffs and conversations with each other, I think it could really help.
Yeah, I think that would be great. The violence interrupters have a circle of safety, and it'd be great if the people who are trying to combat, home insecurity had a circle of safety for the community to, have these conversations and make sure that we are all treating our brothers and sisters with love, but that we're also creating safe spaces for our residents and those who are just commuting through the neighborhood vis-a-vis the train stations and Metro North, et cetera. Great. Eva, did you still have a question?
My question has to do with the social services on Watts Island. I'm curious if right now there are enough mental health treatment and drug treatment facilities that enough capacity to serve all your residents, or do the residents have to actually commute outside of Watts Island to get this type of help?
So no, there is not enough of support and residents for the residents with the mental health needs. Behavioral health is beyond our mental health facilities. We believe that even in our general population, probably about 50% of our residents that we work with, have behavioral health needs. We all understand, trauma, right? And just the trauma of being individuals experiencing homelessness is enough. So we partner with the medical providers that I mentioned on site, and we really are looking at ways to strengthen our partnerships in the behavioral health arena. So we welcome any other opportunities that may exist within the community board as well.
What about drug treatment capacities?
So there's the Odyssey House facility that's on site, but they are geared towards, at that particular location, I know that there's for women and children. So we have relationships with drug treatment providers, with Samaritan Daytop Village, and with all of the other organizations. We have a lot of memorandums of understandings, MOUs, where we could refer out to even the hospitals for detoxes and within the surrounding area. So.
And do you know offhand of the individuals that are in any of your housing or programs located within the confines of Community Board 11, how many of them are originally from East Harlem? We're always curious to know from the service providers in our district, how many of them are servicing people from our communities and how many of them are servicing people from outside of the community, just so that we know how we can better support our own residents and those who have ties, to our neighborhood.
That's a data point that we could.
Yeah, if you guys could follow up and come back to us with that, that would be good, because that is something that we always want to make sure is that people here in need have ease of access to services. And we want to be mindful of the footprint that comes in from those outside of the community who may be accessing services, so that we can make sure that we're creating safe spaces and providing services for, our Community Board 11.
That would be the 10029 zip code. Right?
So it would actually be 10029 and 10035. We have two zip codes. Yeah, 29 and 35 are the primary ones for this area. And so if you could follow up with us with data points around that, we would greatly appreciate it. Yep. And so how many are from or have ties to this community and how many are outside? We actually like both data points.
Okay. And any suggestion on how we can help improve or increase treatment capacities on Watts Island? Because I think if I were there, I would prefer to get service in Watts Island instead of having to commute outside.
Yes, we welcome those conversations.
Okay, so I am looking to see, I don't see any other hands raised. Wait, there's a Sean Hill. I'm gonna call on Sean Hill from the community. Sean from the Harlem Neighborhood Block Association and Greater Harlem Coalition. Floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Nye. I just wanted to say that the M35 bus is a very difficult and very problematic resource in our community, in that so many of the residents who live in East Harlem have said to me and to others that they do not feel comfortable taking that bus to visit Wards Island, to engaging in recreational activities, because of the activity that happens on that bus. And I just would urge you to think holistically about your program and to try to move beyond the idea that your program ends at your front door, because it doesn't end at your front door for the residents of this neighborhood. And we would urge you to think holistically about the larger issue that is caused by such a large concentrated number that comes on the M35 bus to our zip code and our community every single day.
Amen.
Yeah.
All righty.
If I could just add to that.
Karen or Stephen, I was just going to say, would you like to respond before we
Yeah.
move on?
I think what you said is exactly right, and I think that we don't think of our programs as ending at our front door either. But we are funded by the city, and the city sets out the rules for what it is, what we're allowed to do, where our staff members are allowed to go, and so that's the uphill thing that we're fighting. And you should just know that as an organization, we are constantly pushing the city to try to figure out transportation issues. Can they provide buses for staff? Can they provide buses for clients? Can we figure out ways to make it easier to get on and off the island and make things easier for our clients and our staff and the people in the neighborhood? So it's something that we're actively pushing on. And I didn't want you to think that we think that once the people leave our front door, we're done and we wash our hands of it. That's not how we think of our programming. But it does statutorily limit where we can send our employees. And that's something that we struggle with every day.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. So I'm going to thank Karen and Stephen. Again, I would love if you guys can follow up with that data and any ideas that you might want to share with us around how you think we can work together as a community and in partnership with you and the other providers and organization on Randall's to address the M35 bus, like moving it to 2nd Avenue or having a Randall's Island shuttle that takes, a Help USA Randall's Island shuttle that takes people back and forth separate from the M35 bus so that students can get on the bus and others for activities. I know my son won't use it and has actually often walked with friends across to the island. And so, I want to make sure that our children feel safe, our seniors feel safe, but also that those on the island, are working with us in partnership. So on that note, I'm going to switch because we're at 7:17 and we have one other item of business, which is truly important that is still on the agenda. So thank you, Stephen, thank you, Karen, and thank you to all of our speakers. We are now going to shift to our committee work and old business for this evening. So item number 6 on our agenda is continued committee discussion regarding a resolution for moratorium of new sightings of drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, and treatment centers in East Harlem. I just want to make sure that everybody understands the context of how this will flow. There was a previous draft resolution which was passed by this board. This committee. In discussion with leadership, that previous resolution contained a lot of items and a lot of elements. And it was advised that we separate, and with the budget coming up for April and other discussions happening right now, budget at the state level and recent budget at the city level, that it was deemed it would be a good priority to separate out the actual moratorium part and to present a separate resolution on just that item to the committee for vote. So in partnership with leadership and with our staff and with our vice chair, who's a member of our committee, Xavier, and in conversations with other committee members, we are presenting this evening a draft of this new resolution, which is specific just to the moratorium on new sightings of drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, and treatment centers and our programs in East Harlem. I'm going to call and recognize Xavier. If you could please share your screen. For the committee members, we are going to review this revised agenda resolution, which includes some of the language from our previous one, but again, it's just specific to this one topic so that we can then review, hopefully come to consensus and vote and take this one item forward to the full board for review, consideration, and hopefully vote. So I want to make sure that we review it. It did go out on Friday to everyone. Hopefully on the committee, you had a chance to review it. We are now sharing it with the public, and it was posted on the CB11 website with the agenda. And there were a few points that I want to make sure we review in the whereas clauses. Primarily, and I'm happy to read because I know there may be people also on the phone. This is again a moratorium. This resolution calls for a moratorium on the citing of any new drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers within Manhattan Community District 11. And it reads, whereas Community Board 11, hereinafter CB11M, whose primary mission is to advise elected officials and government agencies and its Human Services Committee, which is tasked with addressing matters impacting the health, quality of life, and welfare of the district, encompassing East Harlem, Randall's Island, and Ward's Island, and is experiencing a global pandemic, which has disproportionately resulted in the tragic loss of Black and Brown residents of our community and in every corner of our city, state, and country. Whereas CB11M recognizes that the COVID-19 public health crisis is not only amplifying, but also exacerbating pre-existing racial and economic inequities, disproportionately affecting lower community of color in terms of infection rates, death rates, and financial hardships, for which the consequences of the COVID-19 public health crisis include high levels of employment unseen since the Great Depression, which leads to increased housing instability and may elevate chemical dependency for those with previous history. Whereas the citing of drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers across our district is often done with little or no notice to our community. And whereas there is an oversaturation of substance abuse and addiction services located in Manhattan Community District 11, as reflected in public records, which show our community was 20% of the service capacity for New York City, but only has 7% of the need for these services. And whereas 84% of those currently receiving services within Community District 11 reside outside the district. And whereas the 1989 City Charter, Section 203, required that the New York City Planning Commission to adopt criteria to further the fair distribution of the burdens and benefits associated with city facilities, consistent with community needs for services and efficient and cost-effective delivery of services, and with due regard for the social and economic impacts of such facilities upon the areas surrounding these sites. And Xavier, if you don't mind scrolling, thank you. Whereas CB11M maintains that it is time for a fair share model to be made a priority for our city and state agencies, as well as those elected to represent in government. Therefore, be it resolved that Community Board 11 calls upon the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports, OASIS is their acronym, to, number one, implement an immediate moratorium on the citing of any new drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers to be located within Manhattan Community District 11. Two, provide a comprehensive list of all current OASIS authorized drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers located within Manhattan Community District 11, including names of owner, landlord, authorizers, funders, donors, subsidiaries, investors, providers, partners, services delivery models, outcomes, and metrics for determination of success, funding sources, medical or other professional certifications, and proof of, I believe it should be good standing, but proof of standing, capacity, and current demographics of clients served, and all necessary and pertinent information in relation to the execution of Community Board 11's charter mandated roles and responsibilities. And three, require all OASIS authorized providers to come before CB11M no more than 120 days prior to all reauthorizations and or expansions of services or service capacity. So this is a item-specific resolution draft that has come out of the larger draft that this committee voted on, which we will now like to open with the committee members first for discussion. I have one primary note on data point. Xavier, before I do the data note, do you speak, or should I go ahead and clarify the data point?
Yeah, go ahead and clarify the data point. Then I'll kind of summarize and try.
Okay, good to you. Yeah. Okay, good to you after. So I want to clarify one data point. When our original resolution was drafted and passed by this committee, there was a mention of CB11 and CB10, because I do believe that this issue of oversaturation expands across both districts. However, as we don't have jurisdiction over CB10, we have removed them from mention. The data points reflected in, I guess that is 1, 2, 3, the fourth and fifth, whereas include data subsets that were reflective of both CB10 and CB11 and thus need to be adjusted. I have reviewed them. I have spoken to Eva Chan on this committee. I've spoken to Sean Hill, who previously presented, and I've also spoken to our state representative and our city representative. I am going to refer back to Sean. If you have a moment, Sean, I just want you to double check my new data set references. I'm going to start with whereas 84% of those currently receiving services are the new number data set looks like that should be 82%. Sean, would that validate against the research and information you've received through your FOILs and data assessment? You may have walked away.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. I was just struggling to unmute. The data shows that 18.2% of the attendance at East Harlem clinics is by East Harlem residents. So 18.2% of the people attending East Harlem clinics live in 10029 or 10035.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I did these in reverse, Sean. So I was doing the number of those outside the district, which is currently at 84%, which looks like should be adjusted to 82%.
It should be adjusted to 81.8. Yes.
Okay. So are we allowed to say 82 or do we have to say 81.8?
Go for 82.
Okay, so we're changing whereas 84% to 82%, and we're doing so just so that the committee knows because, again, the original data set included CB11 and CB10, and we are only focused on CB11. Now I'm moving, Sean, to the earlier point in terms of oversaturation. So this is as reflected in public records, which show our community hosts 20%. My understanding is that needs to be reduced, and then the 7%, so 20% of service capacity, but only has 7% of need was reflective of CB10 and CB11. Sean, my data points show that that 20% should be 18.2, or for this record, 18%, or depending on how we look at it, I also have a 15.37% number. So which number is the better variable for our community host X percent of service capacity?
It is the lower number. So we have 15.4% of New York's opioid treatment admissions in this district.
Okay.
15.4.
But the need is 4%, 4.13% as opposed to 7%.
4.1%. Our addiction rate in East Harlem is 4.1% of all addicted New Yorkers who are in opioid treatment programs. Correct.
So Xavier, we are changing two numbers in that current paragraph. The 7% becomes 4%. It can be 4.1. The real number is 4.13. It's up to you. And then in the larger number of host service capacity, it should be 15.37 or 15.4%.
Correct.
Instead of 20.
You repeat that last number. Just hold on a second. Real quick.
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
And then, come on now.
And then at the beginning of that one where it says 20%, it should be 15.4%.
All right.
Yeah, so it's because we do 4.1, do you want to do 15.4 or do you want to call it 4 and 15
Sorry.
for the numbers?
Sorry.
That's okay. I just didn't know. Great. Thank you, Sean, for chiming in on that. I just want to make sure I have my notes and information correctly once we eliminated the mention of CB10. Xavier, I want to kick it over to you. You had some comments on the items that are in yellow highlight for the committee. Again, committee, I know we're putting a lot in front of you, but I just wanted to walk through and talk through these potential changes to this resolution before we open up for committee comment and then community comment. Xavier, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Nycha, and thank you, everyone. Real quick, so this is a couple things I think we have an opportunity here just for the public at large and everyone on this committee. We will be having the community board trainings coming up, and one of the great ones that are always helpful to reassess are the resolution writing process and what that entails. A bit droll from time to time, but it's helpful. Typically, a lot of this stuff that when it comes up on the draft form and everything, this is typically how we should see it. Also, too, when we write, we're writing in the voice of not as a committee, but as the community board. So that's something to keep in mind. So, so this would be, so with the, and I didn't highlight this, but I just wanted to comment that, you know, the first whereas, and it states, and it's Human Services Committee, which is tasked, you know, the community board as a whole is tasked with doing this, and this committee would be a carve out doing that. So that's just a brief comment on that. The second whereas clause, we're focusing on something that is an ongoing epidemic for our community. And I'm not, again, very fussed. I think it's important to include COVID because it has exposed a lot of the inequity that affects our community. That being said, I think the primary focus is on the pre-existing conditions that led us to this part. And if this committee is pleased to do it, I think, you know, taking that for the second whereas and inserting it right after our data point, the whereas with the percentiles that is now 82% of those currently receiving services within Community District 11 reside outside this district. And whereas CB11M recognizes that the COVID-19 public health crisis is not only amplifying, but also exacerbating pre-existing. I think that would be an appropriate place to plug that in, because then we're saying, you know, this is all happening. It's an epidemic, and now we're making it worse because of this. That would be one recommendation. Again, it's not something I would necessarily want to die on a hill arguing, and I don't think we need to waste a lot of time, but I think it would give a better flow to the resolution. So, and again, because it is relevant, but we want to make sure our primary and more salient points are the initial whereas clauses, and then we're adding in, because this would serve more as an ancillary. That was the other comment there. The 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth whereas with the data points, we've addressed that. Just need the citations so we can refer back, and that would be dropped down at the very bottom of the document, and of course numbered appropriately. And then the last comment I was going to share, and I put this little as a placeholder for notes, is on the second therefore. I agree with the initial request. Some of this information that we're looking for and would be asking Oasis to provide, they may not have. And some of that information they may not release to us. So I think it may be more important to actually cast a wider net to where we can say, like, these are the things that we could ask for, or saying that any and all necessary. And I just, again, through this as a draft, and all necessary and pertinent information related to the execution of Community Board 11's charter mandated role and responsibilities, which is a very wide net of saying, we may come to you and ask you a question and you may say, I can't, that's privilege. And then we go back and forth. But I don't think that Oasis is going to be fully aware of, you know, their who the investors are, subsidiaries. They may not be aware. And in the event that they are, they may be unwilling to share, but we may have multiple requests that would spring forward from making those requests to help us find that information. So again, making it a more concise, therefore, clause that allows us to operate more fully. And then just, yeah, and then the last bit is place citations here in numerical order that we use in the document, as we have done in previous resolutions. So that way it creates posterity for future resolutions, whether they're reaffirming and we are trying to build something that we chain together, that we will then reference. And then if data points change throughout, just like we have edited here, we can actually take those and reference back to this document as a snapshot. So that's generally, those are my comments. Open, again, you know, this is just to make it a more concise and tight document. That's all it is. So, Nycha.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate, Vice Chair, your work on that. I'm gonna just call upon some other committee members so we can take all comments at once for consideration. I see Robin has her hand raised, and then after Robin, I will be calling on Eva. Robin, the floor is yours.
I'm sorry, I actually lowered my hand. I'm sorry.
Okay. No worries. I'm gonna go to Eva.
So my question is, we're changing the resolution to just focus on the moratorium of increase?
We're creating a separate resolution. So the resolution we voted on stays. It has not been brought to the floor for the larger community board. And we are pulling out this one issue, which we think is the most urgent issue, which is in the time we deliberate and invite other groups to come and present to us, they can still put new stuff in our community, right? So if we are not on the agenda for the April Community Board and we go into May, something new can pop up in that time frame. So in consultation with the executive leadership, we have come to the agreement that let's pull out this portion so that while we do the work, we can stop any new sightings in the interim and call for this resolution. And one of the things we talked about was whether or not they should have a time frame. Should it be 12 months? Should it be 18 months? Should it be a time frame to it? Which is something that we might also want to consider for inclusion, is whether or not it's a 12-month or is it just in general, right? We're asking them to just stop in general and we'll revisit it. So I just wanted to share that as well, just because that was some of the discussion. I see Robin also, your hand is back up.
Yes,
all right, my sister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's not so much a question as a comment. I just want to say I appreciate the direction the resolution is going in after many years of serving on this committee and the need to make a change. Someone has to make a change on this corridor. And I think it needs to be us. So I think this is a great idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin. We appreciate your support and all of your work with us. I'm going to go to Osendi and then go back to Eva, and then I'm going to open up to the public. And just to remind you to the public, I am not going to be pulling questions from the chat. So if you could please do a raised hand, I can then call on you. So I'm sorry, I see Osendi, and then Eva, and then Xavier. And if there's anybody else from the board, excuse me, from the committee, and then I'll be going to the public. So Osendi, hi.
Hi, thank you so much again. I have two comments.
What's the matter?
I have two comments.
Robin, I'm gonna put you on mute, my sister.
So I was looking over some of the data that was available on the city planning website. And in our district, in CB11's district, we have 11 chemical dependency clinics that are regulated by OASIS. And a large clump of these are, even though they are very concentrated, I can send over the breakdown of this list that I was able to gather. I do feel and believe that actually putting a timeline for about 12 months on this moratorium would be extremely helpful, as it would actually force them to address the issues that we're bringing with enough, time will give us we'll actually see them work towards the changes that we're asking them to do and actually provide the information that we're asking them for before opening up the door to any other new treatment facilities in our community. So thank you again for all the great hard work that you guys are doing.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Eva and then Xavier.
Yeah, so my question is, I think right now, the concern, what OASIS can do most immediately is to not recertify, or it's to not certify for any increase in capacity. So I want to confirm that is clear instead of, because there's, I don't know if number one, the language come across clearly enough, meaning that the capacity certified by OASIS should no longer increase. It's a more concrete ask than what we have, I think.
But the thing is, and let's just both think about this. I think I'm hearing what you're saying is you're also concerned about expansion as opposed to just new. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, is that you're concerned about expansion as well as not just new.
Which is what we've been seeing.
Let's leave that on the floor for one moment. Xavier, I'm going to call on you.
Okay, so real quick to our member Eva's question, it is my understanding that they are not supposed to have additional services or expansion of services without coming to us If they're going to add more headcounts, that's what they've claimed that's supposed to happen. And we've had actually several providers over the course of time express that, yes, we are going to be applying to have more of a larger headcount. I can't speak to what's happened in the past, but I know that is my understanding. The other bit right here,
also bullet number 3 says about expansion. I just wanted to, I didn't know if you were going to say that, so I didn't want to say it, but it says require all OASIS authorized providers to come before CB11 no later than 120 days prior to all reauthorization and or expansion of services or service capacity. And so I just wanted to say that, we were trying to address, again, one of the things that's tricky about this is technically resolutions are like one topic, one issue. We keep trying to make it multiple topics and multiple issues within the same. So we're trying to find a delicate balance between the two that is as succinct as possible, but touches on several different potential issues.
Right. So if I could just,
am I saying that properly, Xavier? Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, and just to kind of extrapolate from there, is that this is step one, right? This gives us time to actually do our due diligence, bring people in. And I appreciate everyone who's attended, and we had, it's incumbent upon us that we take on that information that's been shared with us from all of our current concerned community members, as well as what's available to us publicly, and be able to do and perform our due diligence as mandated by the city charter. And so this will give us that ability to say, like, okay, that's it, stop, no new ones right now. Let's pump our brakes so we can actually do our work. And we're going to call people in and perform analysis on it. So I think that this is just step one of many. And the other thing too, with the previous one that we did discuss at the last meeting, is that it conflated a lot of issues. It mixed city and state agencies. It didn't actually, and because certain items there needed to be carved out because they are interrelated, but they are not necessarily directly corresponding in how they are executed on the city and state levels, and then how it affects our community at large. So we had to carve out these, and this was the most logical first step to afford us an opportunity to do so. And so I think this is, again, I've made my recommendations I'd like to see. I do like, personally, what Ascendius also commented on, which is like giving us a timeline of a year to do this, because then we can actually do it. We may complete our due diligence faster. But again, this committee should have that conversation and what they would like to see happen with bringing in the providers to interview and to get an assessment. That's this committee to discuss as a whole with guidance from leadership. So that's my comment. Thank you, Nye, and everyone. I know we're doing a lot of good work here.
And I know it's 7:44, but this is important work that we have as a standing item on our agenda. I don't see any more hands raised from the committee. I do recognize that Raheem Brooks, who's a member of our committee, had to leave and did put a note in the chat for all of the panelists. I believe that Sean, it seemed like your hand was raised and it went down. So I'm just going to call on you. And then if there's anyone else from the community or from the general public, if you could please raise your hands, I will call on you next. And Eve, I'm sorry, I'm just seeing yours. So I'll come back to you after we do the general public.
I just want to respond to Xavier.
Hang on one second. I want to offer it up. I already offered the floor up to the community. So I see Sean Hill and then I see Michael Lopez. Sean, the floor is yours.
I will pass. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. Michael Lopez, how are you, sir?
How are you? Good evening. Good evening. I like this report. It's the first time I see the draft, so I only have one simple question. So far, there's no conclusion that there will be any cuts in programs, right? Am I correct?
So the state budget is not going to be final until April 1st. So the reason why we were trying to get this on the agenda now is so that in the event that they decide they want to cut or they want to add or they want to do whatever, we are now opening up a dialogue to be engaged with this organization in advance of them placing anything else in our community. So this is not about budget cuts right now. This is just about no new sightings and them having to come to us no later than 120 days prior to a reauthorization of a current site or an expansion of services or service capacity in our district.
Okay, so I misread something. There is no official 20% cut. That'll be decided by the
You,
state.
you
and
mean
the
a
committee.
reduction? When you say cut, I'm sorry, I thought you meant budget. I think you mean a reduction of the current services that exist. Is that what you're talking about?
Right,
Okay,
exactly,
so
20%, yes,
this
yes.
does not address that. This is only step one. Step one is we want to put a pause on
Okay.
any new sites coming in. We had a previous draft resolution that did address that. We will revisit that in a future meeting. Right now, all we want to do is put a pause on any current activity between now and I believe, Cindy and Xavier are recommending that we put a time frame, like the next 12 months, which honestly would, kind of freeze frame what's going on in the community at this time. Okay. I'm going to go to Eva.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Eva, is your hand back up or was that from before? That was the comment to Xavier, right?
Yeah, I just want to comment. I don't really understand how this dialogue in the committee work because it's hard to comment when the question is and it's asked. So my comment is really that the Oasis, I think the main parameter they can control, yes, is sighting, but also just to certify the number of patients. So
but isn't that capacity? So if we have service capacity addressed in item number 3, is there another phrase that we should be using? So item number 3 says service capacity. We literally use the word capacity in there. Is there some other term or phrase that you prefer? Xavier, do you mind scrolling so that we can see the action item?
Certified capacity, I think that's will be the term.
Okay.
Are you in the therefore resolved?
Yes,
section?
if you could please move to the therefore resolved section of the screen, and put it on the screen, I appreciate it. So we have require all Oasis authorized providers to come before CB11M no later than 120 days prior to all reauthorizations and or expansion of services or service capacity. Does that fully cover it, or is there another term that you think we need to have there?
I mean, the issue is they come before us, they can still increase the capacity. I mean, CB11 doesn't have really any right to oppose any increase anyway.
But technically, they don't always come before us because if it's in certain venues, they don't have to come. In the past, when it was located in a private authorized, commercial space, they didn't have to come before us at all. They came before us as a courtesy. I remember Elevate came as a courtesy and said, hey, I don't have to come, I just came. And now we're saying, oh yeah, you do have to come. And we're gonna say that Community Board 11 is asking that if you're gonna be an Oasis authorized provider, you have to come before us no later than 120 days prior. So at least we have notice for the first time and open up a dialogue of communication, of which I guess we can show them the piece of paper that we resolved that there would be no new sites. I'm not sure. Xavier would have to advise us on what's next. But again, to Robin's point earlier, this is gonna be a multi-step process. And I do think we need to make step 1. And we made baby step 1 in our previous committee meeting. And again, it had multiple elements. And now this is step, that was 1A, this is step 1B. And, I'm open to, us on the committee doing our work now. So we had committee comment, public comment, and now I'm bringing it back to the committee to do the work to make these edits so that we can hopefully call this to a vote tonight so that we can then recommend that it go to executive committee and be on the agenda for this month's meeting. So with that being said, I'd like to go back to the top of the document. And Xavier and Marlene, could you please guide us at this point? Do we have like motions for each individual amendment or change? Do we call for a vote of the full thing? Xavier, Marlene, can you let me know, because we've done some edits in real time, how this moves forward to finalization of the draft for the vote?
Right. So per our OO, Robert's Rules of Order, we've been doing this in committee like we would normally do a drafting via committee. There's not a motion before the floor. So it would be one of those, we're doing the draft if we generally through a acclamation or unanimous consent. We're really we changed a couple items, and basically if any other changes accepted here, whether it's additions, deletions, or what have you, we would be voting on the entirety of the edited document.
Right. So I'm going to just review really quickly. There was a recommendation from Xavier about not removing, but just changing the placement of this particular second clause of the whereas. I don't feel strongly, Xavier doesn't feel strongly, it was a recommendation. As he said, he's not going to die on the sword for it. I'm just going to ask everybody here, it's not really a vote per se, but if you are a committee member who feels strongly that this item should be relocated and moved to another place in the document, I believe he was suggesting that it goes after the data points. So it goes from section 2 to section 5. Section 6, excuse me, from section 2 to section 6 of this. If you could please raise your hand. If it's not something that's dire, I think we're going to move forward to the other items.
I mean, no, if I may, yeah, again, just to reiterate, the reason the recommendation was just because we're prioritizing a pre-existing problem. We want to forward those items, and then this is something.
Just to reorder it. In other words, saying that here's the situation, here's the problem. We recognize that this problem is exacerbated by this. So, okay, I don't see any hands raised, so we're going to leave that as is. In the next,
I was recommending, point of order, I was actually recommending to move it. So I would ask.
Right, weren't you moving it from the second where it is right now to after the data sets, correct?
Yeah. So can I go ahead and move that if there's no objection?
Doesn't seem like anybody cares strongly one way or the other.
Okay, just
no comment, no comment, please do what you want. The next thing I'm just underlying is we made 3 edits to the data points, reminding everybody that we did so because we included data that was reflective of placements, sightings in CB10 and CB11, looking at the entirety of the Harlem area and our neighboring community board. We have removed those data sets, taking it from a 20% hosting of service capacity to a 15.4%, and from a 7% of need to a 4.1% of need. Additionally, from an 84% of those from outside the district currently receiving services to an 82%. Just want to make sure everybody's clear on that change. And then if we scroll down, actually, excuse me, Xavier, I'm going to go back to the top. I'm reading a comment from Rakim. Rakim was just asking if we could remove and its Human Services Committee. He just felt like, was it needed? Because as you said, if this is going to be reflective of the full board and not just our committee. So he was recommending we strike that because now it's moving out of committee to the board. And I'm going to scroll down then to the next page. In the 3 so be it resolved items, which are really the actionable items, I'm going to revisit Osendi's comment, implement an immediate moratorium on the siting of any new drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers for the next 12 months. Was that your recommendation, Osendi, or can you please clarify for me?
Yes, that was my comment.
Okay, so we are, if anyone has no objections, we are going to add that because the time frame seemed like that was important to everyone. I'm going to keep going through these items and then I will call on any clarifications. Next, it is provide a comprehensive list. So this is an item that came from a very long, lengthy committee and community conversation about lack of transparency. And so I do want to pause for a minute because many people commented that some of the storefronts and other sites, not necessarily the institutional ones, but the storefront sites, it is very unclear and requires information to be foiled in order to get data, and that many people, do not have the opportunities to be able to do so. So I do want to express some concern that I actually would recommend we're combining what you said, Xavier, and what we said. We understand, and we can put in a clause, provide a comprehensive list of all current OASIS authorized drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers located within Manhattan Community District 11, and provide where possible or provide, you know what I mean? Or provide where possible names of, or something to that. But that would be, the list is important to people in the community. We had some parents and tenants, including Jim Ratty and others, who expressed before that some of the issue has been that people don't know who to go to complain, because there is no name on those sites. There's no, East Harlem Health Action Center to be able to say, I want to go in, and that when you go in, because of HIPAA, they don't give a business card, they don't give contact information, so that community members don't feel like they have a way to directly interact, engage, give comment, or build a relationship with those organizations. So I would just recommend for the committee that we think about that one particular cause, because of that concern that was raised by the tenants and community members who in the past had wanted to, talk to these organizations about some of the issues around safety and security and how they could be better partners with us. And so I just put that out for comment. I see Eva has her hand raised. Eva, please go ahead.
Hey, no, I agree with getting the list. I think that storefront question has confused me quite a bit, because it does seem that there are people who are concerned about storefronts, and there are people who are primarily focused on the big centers, and without really getting a clear list of
everybody, right,
to resolve what is the problem.
Okay. Any other committee members?
I have another, my original question actually.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Timeline. So I am obviously interested in making progress in taking another step to refine the resolution in the future. What I'm a little uncomfortable about putting 1 year limit is, what if in 1 year, for whatever reason, we're not able to put forth additional resolution, then this resolution essentially expire, and then the moratorium will not hold. So I think maybe it has to do with how it's written.
Well, I was just going to say, so in conversation, because I did ask the same question, and Xavier, and Marlene, please feel free to chime in. My understanding was that we would be tasked with, as a committee, whether we are present or whatever the next version of this committee looks like, we would be tasked with revisiting this prior to its expiration, and then voting to update, change, renew, and carry it forward. So it doesn't just kind of go to a file and it gets expired. It becomes a living document of our committee and of our board. So assuming this comes out of our committee today and we vote, and it goes to the full board and gets voted and passed, it would be revisited. And so it doesn't just die, on, whatever day, and then we start all over. We build upon it. And that's what we'll be continuing to do. So I want to just allow our vice chair, Xavier, who's got way more wisdom on this, to chime in and just build upon that.
I don't know about wisdom now, but thank you. But you're right. And
it's the gray, Xavier, it's the gray.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some vitamin after we're done. Yeah, thanks for asking these questions. This is really good work, and I appreciate the public. Again, this is tough. The work's not over if we pass this, and then it gets passed by full board. So it's up to us to set that agenda and to execute accordingly. And as has happened in the past, whenever there is a time period, it is incumbent upon the board to either take it back up and extend that timeline, or reaffirm a position. Case in point of what we are exploring with our park situation here, they are looking to reaffirm a position taken by the board several years ago, because we're still advocating and fighting for a park and for a walkway. And so that's part of our job right now. So yes, this is just, again, step one. And then after this, we will then set an agenda our benchmarks on what we need to do. And I expect not only our membership to be engaged, but also to the public to turn up as well as they have been. That helps us have the dialogue we need. So I guess, and then final point. So thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone who's commented on this. And and Robin, everyone's just putting in great comments. Cindy, what do we want to do with request to, because I've added that and provide where possible. And what do we want to do with this latter part? Because some of these items, they're not going to be privy to. Do we want to condense that? reword that, or just leave it as an open-ended, like we can ask for whatever we want in that. So that's my question for the edit. You're muted.
I'm so sorry, my edit was not clear. Xavier, I was suggesting that we say chemical dependency treatment centers located within blah, 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 and provide where possible, then list all of those things. And so that they have the out of the where possible part, but it also doesn't negate us from a community board stance if we wanted to request that information. So my only concern was that I understand that Oasis might have it, but the state might have it, or the service provider might have it. And so I was trying to do, and where possible, include the names of owners, blah, blah, blah. And then you could say at the end of that, and any other pertinent, information, right, related to the execution of Community Board 11's charter mandate and whatever. So I was just trying to say so that they have they have, if it's something that they can't provide, it's kind of acknowledging that we understand that, but it is also acknowledging that the community would like to know who's in its community, right? Like, I mean, our residents would like to know who's doing business in our community. Yeah. So then you would, after responsibilities, delete the end of it. And we're not, and I think that we're not trying to say that Oasis is going to have all these details, but that if we decide we want to ask about that because maybe someone is an organization we want to reach out to, or we might need to be in communication with because maybe there's 311 calls, that we could go and ask them and or ask whatever the appropriate agency or authorizer, whatever it is. All right. So I know that there was an ask for 2 years. It seems like we've got 12 months. I think we should give this a first time go. As I said, step A, step, B, we're now in step B. This is a new version now. So to the members of the committee, could you please raise your hand if and only if there is something here that does not reflect what we have just discussed. Otherwise, we're going to put it to a vote, and just the members of the committee. So Xavier, there is a question, there's a comment from a committee member in the chat, which was, in that list, we didn't really say the name of the point of contact. One of the things we've had a problem is finding out, like, as we're trying to invite people to come and present to us, we are having a hard time to know who is your manager or the site, supervisor, et cetera, to come and present to contact. So whether or not that needs to say and provide where possible name of a point of contact, comma, owner, blah, 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 so that we know who we would reach out to if we want to invite them to come and present to CB11. If that information is not readily available online or at their site.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see, maybe
primary contact.
Primary contact, facilities, or man, it's fine. Contacts, providers, names of owners, landlord. Okay. Put this plural there for landlords. Okay. All right, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So I think all edits have been reviewed, read out loud, discussed. So I am going to ask for a motion. It's 8 o'clock, guys. I'm going to ask if anyone is interested in bringing a motion to the floor. I see Robin. Robin, I'm going to recognize you.
Thank you. I move that we pass the resolution with the edits we discussed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Is there a second from the committee? Osendi, I see your hand is raised. Osendi, can I please call upon you?
Yes, I second the motion to pass the resolution as discussed in the edits.
Okay, I'm going to ask Marlene if we could. What does Pastor Scott say sorry for? What's wrong, Pastor Scott?
because I didn't raise my hand.
Oh, thank you. I know you were one of the people, you and Robin, who fought for this in the previous reiteration. So I was surprised. I was like, where's Pastor Scott? He must be with those kids right now doing dinner or putting them to bed. So thank you. And it is noted for the record that you were, of course, in support, as you were of our last draft of this. So Marlene, can we put this to a vote?
Sure, I just need to see who's still on the call. Give me a second, please.
Wait, I know that Raheem had mentioned he left.
No.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, just as a point of clarification for the committee and the public, is that obviously, as we've done with resolutions in any document leaving, it'll be checked over once over for grammar, general wordsmithing that isn't, it's general grammar and stuff like punctuation and things like that. And then also too, that just the comments for making sure we have our citations put in the right order and referencing. That's the only thing I would say with.
Yeah, but the staff will do their due diligence on the piece before it is made public and provided to the executive committee along with our minutes for review and then for potential submission to the full board for review.
Great.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right. So like I told you, earlier, I think it's what David just said. I was still reading names. No, we're just going to incorporate the exact edits that are in this document. And we'll fix it and clean it before it goes live and gets posted after full board, if full board ratifies this. There aren't any additional things that's going to go inside this document after full board. If members of the board do not add anything inside this document, it's going to be as is.
So yeah, Marlene, I think what we're talking about is cleaning up the grammar and then making sure we have the citations like that are included, like you have a reference for number 2. That wasn't with this document. Sometimes those straggle along at the end, so we have our references, for
no, absolutely right. Citations are right. They usually come after, but but you all are voting to approve that right now. And so it could be sensitive to the board.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Marlene, can you call the?
Sure.
Thanks.
So Robin made it.
Robin did the motion and it was seconded by Osendi Garcia.
Okay. Eva Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Osendi Garcia.
Aye.
Patricia Martin. Patricia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Jennifer Meyer.
Yes.
Thank you. Xavier Santiago.
Yes.
Isaac Scott.
Yes.
Thank you. Robin Strachan.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. And Nye Whitaker.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries now.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee and to the community for being on this journey with us. We, again, as I always say, want to make sure that we are doing right by our current residents. We are doing right by service providers. We are doing right by those who are in need of services, but that we are also being respectful of our community. And so I thank you all for this work. Step 1B in the process. Hopefully this limited but important step of putting this moratorium on any new sightings and then calling for notification for any potential expansions and or changes in service providers, service capacity, will have to come before us no later than 120 days. Will at least start to put us on the right track to address some of the concerns of the community. So I think we covered everything. Marlene, was there anything else on the agenda?
No, I see Xavier stopped sharing his screen, so I can go ahead and just.
Oh, okay. I don't think there was anything else.
I'm sorry, no, you just have new business and adjournment. That's it.
Okay. Is there any new business that we need to address from the committee members? This is easier because now I can see everybody and when they put their hands up and stuff. When you do this shared screen, you're like scrolling, scrolling. Thank you, Eva. Thank you to all the committee members. Okay, So can we do one of those like unanimous, we're voting to go home for the night moments? Like,
Yes.
you don't have to do like a scroll of everybody. Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion for us to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays?
Well, who seconded your motion, Nye? Who
Oh, I'm
seconded your
sorry.
motion?
Who's gonna second? I saw Robin with
I
her thumb up.
second.
Okay, Pat.
Okay.
Pat, we'll give it to Pat because Robin seconded the item. I'm sorry. Pat Martin,
I just needed clarity.
thank you.
I second.
Thank you, thank you. So thank you to everyone who presented tonight. Thank you to the community for their patience. Thank you to our committee members for your great work and your guidance and your love of our community. Thank you to our Vice Chair, Xavier, and Marlene, our staff, for getting us through this, and have a wonderful Monday night.
You too.
Thank
Good night.
you, Nah.
Good night.
Take
Night.
care, Nye and Xavier. Great work.
Thank you.